What's up, everybody? Welcome to the CanesInSight Daily Podcast, powered by Anajar and Levine Accident Attorneys. I wish I could say it's another Victory Monday, but it's not. Heading into the bye week with a lot to reflect on. Tough loss to Georgia Tech. A lot of weaknesses exposed, things that we've seen all season. Some new concerns maybe that have come more to the forefront. We'll talk about all that. Good news is Pittsburgh defeated by Virginia. Miami controls his own destiny still to make it to the ACC championship game and get that number 3 seed. First, I want to talk about some folks who are always in control. That is Anajar and Levine Accident Attorneys. If you or someone you care about has been injured in an accident, you could be entitled to significant compensation. Dial 1-800-747-FREE, 1-800-747-3733. Take back control of your life with Anajar and Levine. Pete, hop in.
Yeah, D, the other day after the game, we did the post-game show, and you were there in the Bahamas, and your hair was flowing in the wind. I said, "Well, look, it's a loss, but Miami still controls their own destiny." You said, "Well, wait, hold on, not true." But I was speaking it into existence as Pitt lost on Saturday. I just had a feeling something would happen.
Yeah, I mean, I did not want to be where you are always in November, which is you're waiting for all these different weird scenarios to unfold. At least you don't have to worry about that for the immediate future. Miami just needs to worry about getting better in their bye week, which, of course, is a huge concern given that the performance against Georgia Tech was not something that they want to repeat. But getting better in the bye week, getting ready to beat Wake Forest. And then you got Syracuse and the ACC championship game. So it's all right in front of them. They're still, I believe, the betting favorite to win the ACC, which doesn't mean much. They were the betting favorite to beat Georgia Tech and on and on. But point is, we're still here. But a lot different conversation on this Monday. We talked about weaknesses before on the Monday following these close comeback wins, but this game, not only did the weaknesses come back to haunt them in the form of a loss, I thought there were certain things that get me even more alarmed about the state of the defense than we were going in, and we had a lot of concerns heading in.
Yeah, and it's unfortunate because you understood whether Haynes King played or not, that it was going to be tough for them to really throw the ball downfield, or at least it should have been, right? Or you would think that the only way that they could really hurt Miami was on the ground, and understanding that and still giving up almost 300 yards on the ground is what is, I think, what is very disappointing. Again, understanding that whoever the quarterback was going to be, you shouldn't have to worry about being beat through the air. So at least sell out on the run. And that just wasn't the case.
Yeah, I said this in a post I made on CanesInSight.com. Free sign up, 7 million posts and counting. Basically saying, people go ahead and pull up that post. You can't. Basically saying this was not an undefeated team, right? You looked, and not because the roster or anything else. I'm just saying this team, based on their performance up to this point, they were undefeated, but they weren't necessarily performing like an undefeated team. They got fortunate in many respects to win games that, not saying they didn't deserve to win because they made the plays to win the game, but if something broke the other way, they could have lost. So when you have that thin line, it eventually catches up to you. We saw that in this game. So I kind of went through some of the reasons here. We could talk about just some of these points, but really, to me, on the defensive end, when you give up 271 yards rushing to a team that not only doesn't have their quarterback healthy, and they were playing really a bootleg style of offense with their injured starting quarterback and their backup quarterback, who's a true freshman, but they also had no running back. Justice Hayes, you saw him in that first carrot. What's his name? What's the running back for
Jamal Haynes?
Jamal Haynes, the guy from Alabama, similar name. But anyways, Georgia Tech, that running back had a lot of juice to him. First play, he busts almost for a touchdown, scores a touchdown shortly thereafter. Really looks explosive. Then he's out of the game. So you're talking about walk-on running back at some time for a predominantly run-based offense with your quarterback hurt with a bad throwing shoulder, and then they're playing a walk-on running back, and they still run for 271 yards. That's alarming. You knew it was coming. You couldn't stop it. 35 minutes of time of possession to 25 minutes, 9 of 14 for third downs. Couldn't stop a critical 3rd and 18 that really made a huge difference in that ball game. It's not just the final score or the total yards, it's the way it happened. That, to me, even though other games might even gave up more points, this was the most alarming defensive game to my eyes.
Yeah, and it's just like you knew there were certain situations they weren't going to get off the field, D, and that's as a fan frustrating. And it's just like something's got to give there because you gotta think that going into this game, going into any game, Miami gives up 28 points, and you got to feel pretty good about it. But at the same time, you had to know the offense was not going to have uh, a perfect season, so to speak. They've been pretty perfect. It's been tough to nitpick, but you knew there'd probably be a game where things weren't going. And look, by the numbers, Ward was fine, but the run game didn't get going either. So we'll talk more about the offense now, but at the end of the day, defense, you got to be able to at least stop something, and they couldn't take either the run or the pass away.
All right,
Obviously,
pull back here. Let them see the beautiful face there, Pete. They got the blue shirt, trying to show off the eyes for the ladies. You got some compliments and you got excited.
yeah. I don't know. I don't even know if we can see that through the screen here, but
anyways, so the defensive end position to me is somewhere I want to start. We talked about a little bit off air. Ruben Bain, Tyler Barron. On paper, those are two NFL defensive ends. You feel very, very good that Miami is going to be a threat rushing the passer. But now you drop to 40th in the nation in sack percentage. No sacks against Georgia Tech. Part of that was game plan. It wasn't like they were necessarily dropping back to pass every single down, but you had opportunities where you didn't get pressure. That 3rd and 18 being a big example of that. 0 sacks, and really struggled to set the edge against a team that you knew was going to attack you on the edge. There were times that contain was lost, particularly with 1 3rd down. Tyler, we had him right. We wanted him a 3rd and long. Tyler Barron goes inside. There's no one there on the outside. The backup quarterback goes and takes the easy 1st down with his legs with minimal resistance. That was just one example. I'm not feeling the defensive end's presence in these games like I expected to. You knew the secondary was going to be an issue going into the season, but you hope that your dominance at defensive end, which on paper, especially when you throw Messidor in the mix, Elijah Alston, who's hurt right now, that's a really, really good defensive end group, and it hasn't necessarily translated to a major advantage for the Miami Hurricanes.
Yeah, look, production is not always in terms of sack numbers, is not always the end all be all in judging what the defensive line and defensive ends in particular, what they're doing out there on the field. But it's just, you haven't seen it consistently enough in terms of the pressure, game affecting pressure. And a lot of it is just that, like, we did see some of these 3rd and longs and, big gains that happen, but they're being put in situations as well where they're not able to really tee off either. But you got to be better in those early downs as well.
Yeah, no, it's a frustrating performance all around on the defense. And the offensive end, not the best performance you've seen from this offense. Cam Ward statistically had a very good day, knowing what he's capable of. To me, the best player in the country. Disappointing when you look at it through that context. I thought the big problem from Cam Ward's perspective was just not taking checkdowns that were there all day. He was hunting the big play. His pocket presence, to me, was not the best we've seen from him. Not just holding the ball too long, which he did on that play where he was sacked, gave up the fumble that ultimately cost the game. You had Elijah Royal sitting there right there with the ability to run after the catch. You know how fast he is. You saw it earlier in the game, and he could break tackles as well. Would have been a simple check down, and it was not even 3rd down. Could have easily gone to him, but he held on looking for the big play, and ultimately the 3-man rush got to him. I don't think his movement was great in the pocket as far as just being efficient in his movement. He was just kind of floating out there, didn't step up past the rush, didn't find daylight. It was just sort of moving around, very focused on getting the ball downfield, but making it tough on his offensive lineman who can only do so much as far as protecting him. You saw that really throughout the day. There were a couple of missed throws that he usually makes, especially in the first half. So statistically, it was fine, and he certainly didn't lose the game for Miami, but Cam Ward has been better, can be better, and hopefully will be better as you close out the season.
Yeah, I don't think that he was making those same sort of spectacular plays that have saved Miami at times, right? I think that was the biggest difference. He, like you said, he missed some throws, missed one on Horton that probably would have, it was, if it was catchable, called a pass interference on that one in the first half. But you can nitpick and say he missed certain throws here, but just as a whole, the run game wasn't great either, D. So you got to give Georgia Tech and their defense credit. Chad Bishop did say that the defense was playing at a high level when we had him on the show last week. So it's tough to just point to one thing when it comes to the offense here and what happened the other day, but they just weren't clicking on all cylinders.
No, and look, just going through the stats here, I always go FBS versus FBS for the stats. Miami drops to 58th in the nation in scoring defense, 6th in the ACC. That's just FBS versus FBS. If you lock into ACC only play, Miami drops a little further. 58th in opponent yards per rush. That rush defense efficiency took a big hit against Georgia Tech. 71st in takeaways. You're not seeing Cam Kitchens and guys like that make those plays in the secondary, although Mish Powell does have 4 picks. You're not seeing much beyond that. This one to me is a tough one. 118th in penalty yards per game. Not a disciplined ball club in that respect. You saw a couple times in this game work out away from them. They actually missed a couple calls, a face mask that could have extended a drive. Miami got lucky that was not called. Of course, you had multiple targeting plays. Some got reversed, some didn't, but not a very disciplined team in terms of the penalties based on the stats. And then we talked about being 40th in sack percentage, which you were hoping you'd be closer to top 10 going into the season, which I don't think was a crazy projection given where Miami's been in the past, but certainly was has not been the case to this point. You're still playing a couple teams with pass happy offenses, Wake Forest, Syracuse, where maybe you could pad that number a little bit, but that's something that needs to definitely go up, especially if you're trying to win an ACC championship game. You need those guys to kill drives for you, protect that secondary a little bit. Don't put so much pressure on them. There's not a situation you're going to get a lot of cover sacks. You really got to force the action, make the plays.
You got to collapse the pocket, yeah.
And you definitely cannot lose contain and let these running backs that are not exactly Vince Young hurt you so bad outside the pocket. We've seen it pretty consistently. Malik Murphy didn't really do it, but you did see Fernando Mendoza, who's not a speedster, have a long run at a critical time in the Cal game. Of course, you saw Kyron Drones have a lot of big runs. Georgia Tech, we know what the quarterback run game did there. So a trend that you don't love. I mean, even Tyler Shuck for the Louisville Cardinals didn't hurt you running the ball, but he did hurt you outside the pocket. You weren't able to get him down to the ground. So again, some disappointing trends from that standpoint in terms of the defensive end play.
Yep, without a doubt. I mean, look, they've got a couple opportunities here to kind of get it right before you get into ACC play. So hopefully they get some momentum. ACC play, ACC championship. Hopefully, if they win these next two, but gotta maybe get some momentum going, get some confidence going, because finishing those plays and even just creating that immediate pressure will make a world of difference for this defense.
Yeah, and we're real depressed here right now on the show. Just usually on the Monday we're a little more upbeat. Obviously, a little frustrated with the loss. Luckily, there is a lot to look forward to with the team. Defense has to shape up in a major way, and it's getting late in the game. Kind of are what you are at this point. So, some of this is just it's 99% baked into the product. We got to see. I don't know if there's adjustments to be made other than just guys playing closer to their true potential as you get into the rest of the schedule, because it's not like you're going to make some magical adjustment this deep into the season. Talk to some coaching friends, ask what adjustments to be made. Bottom line is you just got to play better. I don't know, personnel-wise, Zaquan Patterson got more snaps. He showed his youth a little bit. That's why you can't necessarily just plug in talented freshmen and expect them to help you. Sometimes there's a reason why they're cooking a little slower. So not that many options other than just playing better. But I do want to have a little palate cleanser here and cheer up. So always fun to talk about FSU and their struggles. 1-9 on the season. Not really celebrating people getting fired, because these are people with jobs and livelihoods, but just the struggles of the FSU program. Mike Norvell, who makes $10 million a year, to have 3 losing seasons in 5 chances. He scapegoated a lot of people on his staff. Offensive coordinator Alex Atkins is also the offensive line guru, recruiter. Defensive coordinator Adam Fuller, wide receiver coach Ron Dugans, old friend Randy Shannon upgraded to defensive coordinator. Congrats to him. But again, not really celebrating the people losing their jobs, and hopefully they bounce back and, quite frankly, get away from a situation that probably isn't their fault to a full extent. I mean, some of this has to do with the lack of high school recruiting from the head man down. Hopefully those guys can land on their feet and do better. But from my perspective, what I like to see projecting forward, having to play these guys every year, is the recruiting class collapsing. So they're ranked 31st right now in the nation. Their top rated recruit, top 50 player overall in the country, Solomon Thomas, probably the best interior lineman in the country, if it's not CJ Alfatuli, a Miami commit. He says right here with a picture of Alex Atkins, not going to lie, y'all messed up firing my coach, tagging Alex Atkins and Florida State football.
I'm surprised you knew what NGL stood for, D.
Just from reading these player tweets. That's the only way I get my acronyms. But he's looks like he's out the door. So their top rated commit, most likely to flip, more likely to flip to an LSU, I think, than a Miami. But you get him out the door. That's going to significantly impact their class. Their offensive line is already terrible. It was the strength of their recruiting class, but you lose him. And another 4-star commit, Peyton Joseph, saying it was a different type of bond with Alex Atkins. Again, there you see the picture there.
Groovy, man. I like that nickname. I'm gonna take that one.
So, P. Groovy could be leaving the class as well. So you're losing 2 of your top-rated players in the entire class, just like that. And you're already ranked 31st in the nation. Not a lot of chances to add to that. There's not a lot of big names that FSU's in the mix for. Obviously, they only have one win. So this could be a historically bad class for the Florida State Seminoles, especially when you consider it's not a transition class. Most of these guys, most of their recruitment took place when FSU was a top 10 team in the country, top 5 team in the country. So if that success translates into a historically bad class, what does the future really hold? They got a lot of work to do in Tallahassee, which hopefully Miami can at least pencil in one win on their schedule for the foreseeable future when you're pulling in classes that poor and you're struggling that bad on the offensive line. So they scapegoated a couple guys, hope they land on their feet. Don't want to celebrate anybody getting fired, but I am celebrating the collapse of the Florida State program and will continue to do so. You'll say, what about us? We just lost. Worry about yourselves. I will always be petty and celebrate FSU failure. We could be 2-8. If FSU is 1-9, we're ragging on them. That's just kind of how it goes. Luckily, we're not 2-8, 9-1, with a chance to really finish strong here. Wake Forest, Syracuse, and then hopefully an ACC championship game. Everything in front of us, but a lot of work to do on the defensive end. And people I've raised concerns. People are saying, "How could you expect us to stop anybody? How can you expect us to stop an offensive team like
valid
SMU?"
question?
Valid questions. But Miami is favored to win the ACC for a reason. After that terrible defensive performance, poor overall performance, they're still favored to win the ACC because they do have a lot of things in their favor. They are healthy-ish, which you're thankful for, because this is a very delicate situation when you're playing tackle football. You could lose these impact players from one snap to the other. Hate to see people get hurt and have their careers altered. So you have had a couple injuries. Obviously, Jadis Richard was a very tough one a couple weeks ago. But for the most part, you've stayed healthy, and you hope that will continue. And as long as Miami's healthy, as long as Miami controls their own destiny, I'm feeling optimistic because it's better shape than we usually are come November. There's a lot of people who say, well, November we usually collapse. This loss leads into 3 more losses. We'll see what happens. We'll be here all bye week to break that down.
Would love to get Popo Aguirre back and Elijah Alston. I think those guys could do something.
No question. You have a bye week to get healthy for those guys, a bye week for Damari Brown. Just those 3, a lot of speed, a lot of intensity added to your roster if you could get those guys back. So let's knock on wood and hope that the bye week brings increased health to the team. Came at a good time because they're going to stew on this loss, and it's not something that I don't think is going to pull the team apart because they have everything in front of them, but it could refocus the team, which I don't know if the team lacked focus. I think it was more, rewatching that. I should say this because rewatching that game against Georgia Tech, yes, there were significant issues in terms of getting out leveraged, where they had more guys blocking than we had trying to stop the run, which is a concern if you're the defensive coordinator. That's part of your job, is to make sure the math is always at least giving you a chance. But I was struck watching the replay how many plays that were 10-yard gains, 15-yard gains, could have been 1-yard gains, just with better fits, better angles, better tackling from that back 7. So, and sometimes from the front 4. So, yes, the defensive coordinator is going to get heat for something like this when your defense ranks that low relative to the offense. That comes with the job. I don't think anybody's questioning why Coach Guidry's getting heat for some of these performances. But going back and looking at it, yes, there were plays where we out leveraged before the ball was snapped, and that's a major problem. But a lot of plays that should have been 1 yard gain, 2 yard gains, that went for touchdowns, that went for first downs, that really should not have happened. But for poor fits, poor tackling, poor angles, just poor execution by the defense.
Yeah, I was going to say the word execution. On both sides of the ball, because there was opportunities for the offense to get that 4th and 1 where they don't decide to throw the ball and don't get it and things like that. And it didn't seem like it was like an energy thing or the team came out flat. It did not necessarily feel that way. The same way Miami's lost some of these games over the years. So we're dissecting where it went wrong. I don't necessarily think it was that, so to speak. So
no, but let's focus on one positive here with our Beacon Adjusters Player of the Game. Had to name a Player of the Game, and this one to me was pretty easy just because the wow factor that he brought to the table, and that is Elijah Arroyo. We all saw his 74-yard touchdown. I'm just looking at the reaction on Twitter. I said on CanesInSight, this guy is, to me, a high-round NFL draft pick. I think I thought people were underrating. When you list our prospects for the draft, Cam Ward, number 1, as a first-round pick, most likely. To me, number 2 is Elijah Arroyo. I've been saying that almost since before the season. We talked about that Arroyo might have been the best prospect on this team that was eligible. And there's been some pushback, people saying, well, he hasn't played that much, all the stats, all that. But seeing when you see that 74-yard touchdown run, 6'4", 245 pounds, Real Analytics had him at 21.8 miles per hour on that run, ranking 2nd for any position in the country this past weekend. How accurate those mile per hours, that's up for debate, but he was clearly booking it and leaving the defensive backs in the dust. Jim Nagy, who runs the Senior Bowl, former NFL scout. Pete, you've worked with him a ton and know him pretty well. He said straight up, NFL scouts are going to like a tight end averaging 20-plus yards per catch, which Arroyo is. He is one prospect that the league is higher on than the media. That will no doubt change once we get into the pre-draft process. Jim Nagy, his job is to talk to NFL executives all year, get the guys that they want to see invited to the Senior Bowl, and he's been banging the drum. This guy, Elijah Arroyo, is a lot better prospect than people talk about the guy from Michigan, Colson Loveland. They talk about the guy from Penn State, Warren, who's a really good player, number 44. Talk about some other guys, but they need to be talking about Elijah Arroyo, very deep tight end class. But I really think that Elijah Arroyo is a high round, potentially even first round NFL draft pick because of the speed, the fluidity in route running, the physicality, and the size of 6'4", 245 plus.
Yeah, I don't think there's any doubt he should be a top, 3-round guy, 4-round, without a doubt, once the process is over with. I want to give a shout out to OJ Frederick as a potential player of the game on the other side of the ball. D, if we're looking for bright spots here as well, because he played a heck of a game. Yeah,
OJ Frederick. When we talk about the secondary, and we'll talk a little bit about it as we get deeper into the program here, but this is a problem. Miami's going to attack the secondary in the portal, no question, but it needs to be primarily solved through high school recruiting. That's a position where you just got to get great athletes in high school. Some teams can help fix it in the portal. Ole Miss did a great job with their secondary in the portal. For the most part, that's hard to find those super athletic guys that aren't getting paid a lot by the school that signed them, right? They're so high value that you usually got to sign. It's similar to defensive linemen. You got to sign them in high school because they're such rare physical traits that you need to play the cornerback position or the safety position at a high level, especially cornerback, that you don't get those guys in high school, you're in deep trouble. I think OJ Frederick's an example of what it's supposed to look like. And you could see when you see OJ Frederick and you see some other guys, there's a lot of difference in talent from the average corner and defensive back that we've been putting out there and what Frederick brings. He's a really, really talented athlete, really smooth, really fast. You saw him run down Haynes in that first quarter. You saw a couple of pass breakups that he made. He's just the ball skills, the fluidity, the size, and he could tackle. He's a real deal player. So good choice there as your player of the game. If your property has been affected by Hurricane Milton or Hurricane Helene, Beacon Adjustors Group is here to help. With years of experience handling storm-related damage, we work tirelessly to ensure you get the compensation you deserve. From assessment to settlement, our team of trusted experts will guide you every step of the way. Don't face the aftermath alone. Let Beacon Adjustors Group restore your peace of mind. Call us today, 954-466-4224. All right, so we were talking, Pete, a little bit about the need for defensive backs to come out of high school and help you athletically in the secondary. We talked about Ben Hanks, major target from Miami, in my opinion, the best player in South Florida, maybe the best player in the state, maybe the best player on Miami's board at cornerback for Booker T, total package. DJ Pickett, top 10 player nationally. Everybody knows him from Riverview. You got to get those type of guys. Jabori Antoine committed from the New Iberia, Louisiana area. But one guy that is committed, I think, is going to really, really help is Drake Stubbs, 4-star safety from Tampa Mandarin. Look here at the speed chasing down this running back. Look at the acceleration right there and then stripping the ball. Stubbs, highly rated player in the class. He's a 4-star. But I just think his style, look at the closing speed here, Pete.
It looks glitched out a little bit. I don't know what's happening here with the computer. Maybe he's just that fast. The footage, the footage looks a little sped up.
But look, I mean, he's just faster than everybody else on the field. He jumped out of the gym when he was tested. He's got extreme vertical explosiveness, which translates to his acceleration. Not like a guy that maybe he's going to be covering be the nickel for you and cover all day, but he's a ball hawk. He's got a lot of ball production, both in terms of interception and fumble recoveries. But we said this before the season in camp. When people ask, what are the look at that closing speed. One of the weaknesses on this team is we just don't have a tone setter in the back seven who has acceleration, who could tackle in space, and who could really just help give you an identity in that secondary.
And just clean things up back there at the end of the day.
No question. And look, the difference between accelerating and making a crisp tackle and getting there slow and then kind of tripping some guys by the shoelaces, that's a 6, 7, sometimes 10-yard difference. And like I mentioned in the segment before, go back and watch that Georgia Tech film. You're going to see a lot of plays that should have been 1-yard gains, then end up being touchdowns or first downs. A guy like Hilton Stubbs, with his size, 6'2", strong body, speed, acceleration, which you saw on those clips, he's having a great senior year, and then tackling ability, I think he could, in year one, and I believe he's an early enrollee as well, help you get more athletic, more physical in your secondary, which is what you need. He's a highly rated guy. Every team in the country wanted him, top 5 safety in the country. So it's not like this is some kind of sleeper. But to me, if you're talking about improving through recruiting, this guy, Hilton Stubbs, is what you're trying to accomplish. And it should have happened earlier. You did not recruit very well with Jamil Adai was now the defensive back or the cornerback coach for the Buffalo Bills, more suited for the pros and for recruiting. That high school recruiting slipped, and now we are seeing the results on the field, and you're seeing how it impacts the defense and how it impacts the win-loss record. It's a big problem, and I think you're starting to improve that a little bit. Depends how you finish with this class. You have some big fish out there with Ben Hanks, DJ Pickett, and others, but Drake Stubbs, top 50 player nationally, 51st ranked player, I should say, on the composite, 97 overall, top 10 player in Florida. I think this guy's going to make a huge, huge difference. Also plays for Team Raw with our guy Duaso. So he's got some experience on the 7-on-7 circuit. Last guy that he sent over, Cam Kitchens, he made a big difference. You see him in the pros getting interceptions, 4 touchdowns. For all his mistakes, could we have used Cam Kitchens on this team? I think most people would say we could. Hopefully the next Raw product helps Miami out just as much with Drake Stubbs.
And then I know you want to talk about another guy who's on the roster right now. We've seen making plays on the special teams department already.
Yeah, Dylan Day from Louisiana. This is somebody who was a 3-star, didn't have a lot of fanfare. You wonder why LSU didn't recruit him. But then you see him, 6'1". He runs a 21.53, 200 meters, so he's got a ton of speed. Very productive at a lower level of competition in Louisiana. 1A player, but dominated that level, both as a team. The team was on 1 state, and he was probably the best player on the team. You watch his clips, and you see the speed, the playmaking. You want guys that are playing safety to make plays, for lack of a better word, in all facets of the game. You want to be able to see them and feel them on the field. That's a position where the guys just got to be around the ball doing multiple things. And in high school, you like guys that are doing a lot. He's doing that, whether it's interceptions for touchdowns, playing offense, returning kicks. There you see him intercepting this one and taking it to the house. It's not just projection with him. We've now seen him at Miami special teams, including the last game. He is making a consistent impact on special teams, flying down the field, making physical tackles. I don't think he is going to be a factor on defense this year, but he is already a major factor on special teams. There you see with the big hit. And I think going forward, if you're talking about guys that could play safety, play nickel, play that, not corner, but in the back four with the ability to play the run, fit the run, use their speed sideline to sideline, clean things up. He's that kind of guy with his speed, which is verified. And now you've seen it in special teams with his versatility and with his aggressive mentality. I think this is a guy who could help you next year solve a problem that is really hurting you this year.
Yeah, agreed. I think the question that most Canes fans would have as we talk about this is why isn't he playing now, D? Obviously, we've seen him on special teams, but I already know that'll be in the comments, so I'm just trying to get out in front of that.
Yeah, look, and I don't know the answer. I mean, he was hurt for a while in spring, which is when a lot of people make that move. He had a bad hamstring, so he missed a lot of time. He was looking good before that. We talked about him on the show, but then he pulled his hamstring. He was out for the rest of spring, so he didn't get to make that kind of push to play. Came in August camp and did some nice things. He's kind of moving around a little bit. I think he settled in at safety. So, look, he's maximizing the role he has now, which is special teams. Could he help us? I don't know. I know Zaquan Patterson is someone that we expected to play a lot more. He's starting to play more, and you're seeing freshman mistakes from him. I think one of the lower graded players on PFF. I think he was the lowest graded player on defense, PFF-wise, in this game against Georgia Tech. I think he's got a great future. Zaquan Patterson is tackling. He's another guy that we talk about, guys who can close distance, who can tackle, who can set the tone back there. He is one of those guys. But right now, it's just not it's not there. Look, should Miami be prepared and better to play? These are all fair questions to ask. But when I'm talking about a guy like Dylan Day, a guy like Drake Stubbs, or even a guy like Zaquan Patterson who's playing right now, hopefully, it's not a guarantee this will happen, getting guys like this will give you more speed, physicality, and instincts in the secondary going forward, because that is what Miami needs, among other things, but probably the biggest agenda item to be able to compete with teams like Texas, teams like Georgia. Those teams have guys like this in the secondary all over the place. They don't miss tackles that we miss. They don't miss angles that we miss. They don't have the same struggle to close distance that we have sometimes. You see Texas, you see Georgia, it is evident on the tape. Boom, the second you turn it on. Ohio State as well. Put them in the same category. So I'm highlighting that just because I thought that was a big problem in the Georgia Tech game. And we're looking for potential bright spots in the future to fill that, because right now it is a major concern.
A big bright spot, though, going on this week, D, at the Miami Hurricane team store. You want to talk about the sale going on here?
Oh, absolutely. So it is the first birthday of the Miami Hurricane team store. This is Harry Rothwell. You know, if you've been around Miami athletics at all, the top retail apparel guy in the game for Miami Hurricanes. He has moved to the Miami Hurricane team store at the Thesis, right next to the Thesis Hotel across campus on South Dixie Highway. Very easy to spot if you were anywhere near the campus. So from now until September 16th, enjoy 20%. I think
November
16th. From now until November 16th, enjoy 20% off everything store-wide. That's 20% off all the Miami gear you love. Perfect for repping your Canes in style. Swing by the Thesis Hotel to gear up and save big. Exclusions apply. So, that's a sale. You also have promo code INSIGHT20 for 20% off. If there's, for whatever reason, an item that doesn't fit into the sale, you got that as well. So a lot of options to save 20% off the absolute best Miami Hurricanes gear. Look at that Canes basketball pregame shirt from the warmups.
I'm going to need to get that one for sure.
P, you saw us on Sunday. I know you did the post-game show. We've been doing all those post-game shows for Miami Hurricanes basketball live. A lot of viewers, man. Those lives are getting pretty hectic. The Canes
we had
basketball
like 500 live on that Canes basketball one, which, I wonder how many people were hopping on there to see if I'd be talking about the football game the day before. But, I was very clear that it was about basketball. So love to see that support for the basketball team. Pretty good crowd for a Sunday afternoon, 2:00, when there's NFL going on, which, puts most people to sleep these days. But, it was a nice little crowd out there. And good early season win. Binghamton was pretty big, man, across the board. They had some bodies out there. So Coppin State next Sunday, and then you have the tournament in Charleston after that where you have Drake. So going to be at the game next Sunday again, and ready to give my analysis.
Yeah, no, excited. I like the team. I like the mix of youth, veteran players, guys that we're very familiar with in Pack and Cleveland. Nice little mix of guys for that team. Fun to watch. Obviously, I couldn't make it this Sunday traveling back, but looking forward to catching those games with you, Pete. Really loved what I saw from the team in the opener. Just a really, really talented team from top to bottom with a lot of versatility. Jaleel Bethea coming off the bench, just gunning and trying to make highlights. That's fun to watch. Divine, man, we talk about him every time. He's a very, very, very impressive player. So excited about Canes Hoops. Also, shout out to Greg Rousseau, Miami Hurricane alum for the Buffalo Bills, had a crucial strip sack. He's a free agent next year, Pete. I'll make a prediction right now. I think Greg Rousseau, and you get what is it, November 11th? I think Greg Rousseau is going to be one of the highest paid defensive players in NFL history when he signs that contract. I think people are going to be shocked when they see Greg, injury permitting, health permitting, knock on wood. I think when Greg Rousseau becomes a free agent here in the offseason, he's going to sign a contract that's going to shock people because he's really, really a dominant player, leading the NFL in tackles for loss this year, a force against the run and the pass and deflecting passes. Just a total beast and a really, really ascendant young Cane.
Yeah, agreed. And like the guys at that position get paid like that. So he's the next one up, and I agree with you. He'll probably be top 5 paid of all time at that spot.
All right. Well, again, appreciate everybody. Got a lot to talk about. We'll talk recruiting. We'll talk defense. We'll have your questions, which I know there's a lot of comments lately, a lot of frustrations, which it happens after a loss, but a lot to look forward to. Miami's just trying to go 1-0 in the bye week and then 1-0 next week, but a lot to work on, a lot to talk about. Appreciate everybody joining us. Go Canes.
Go Canes.
This an insight to the Canes, and you know we ain't playing no games. Joaquin said dominate, so that's what we do. Home of the legends and 7th floor crew. Down in Miami where hurricanes brew. You here for the rumors, we bring you the news. Cause it's all about the you, and nobody do it like CanesInSight. 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 It's CanesInSight.